last week we worked on doing benchmark fractions to decimals and then benchmark fractions to percents. But then we stuck with pretty straightforward fractions. And on the homework from Friday, or the classwork, which is your homework tonight if it's not finished, there was still a few that were a little bit more challenging than benchmark fractions. So the whole point here is to figure out what can you do to find a percent, when the ratio table or the number line tool is not helpful or it's not a benchmark fraction. Okay? So what's the first step, Oliver? Okay, so for number one, to see if you can simplify. First step would be simplify the fraction. So if you look at this and you say, that doesn't look familiar, it's not a benchmark fraction. First step is see if you can simplify it to one. So I don't know if you heard Oliver, but he said you could divide by 3. Good job. And then once you see that, if you recognize it, you can just write the answer down. If you don't recognize it, then you can build it up to be per 100 because we're looking for the percent. So what do you think, Emily?
25.
Yeah, so Emily recognizes it. She could just write the answer down. That would be okay. We actually want you to be able to recognize and write. However, not everybody may recognize. So Emily, help somebody that doesn't understand that. What could be the next step to help a person if they can't go straight to that?
4 times 25.
Right. She's building it up to 100 by multiplying by 25. And since percent means per 100, if you multiply both the numerator and the denominator by the same thing, or the top of the ratio table and the bottom of the ratio table, you get 25 per 100. And that gives you the percent. So you can get there either way. You don't have to get there in one step. Alrighty? What about number 2, Isabel? Is that a benchmark? This one. Yeah. Right. It's not a benchmark. It's not one you have memorized probably. Although some people did, believe it or not, in the morning class, which I was surprised about. But I would go with Isabel's strategy is you could make it to 1200. If it doesn't go into 100, you could always multiply by 100 as a first step. So in other words, let's look at the steps up here in purple. Step 1, first see if you can simplify, and the answer is no. Step 2, if you don't have a benchmark fraction, you can use a ratio table. So we can use a ratio table, but in the end, we will still need to do some long division. Okay? You can round your answer to 1 decimal, or you could leave it in fraction form. So by multiplying by 100, we're on our way to getting to 100 in the bottom, but we're not quite there yet. What are you going to do next, Isabel? Divide by 12. Good job. And so if I divide by 12, at this point I could do long division. I could write this in fraction form. I could write it in fraction form and reduce it to 50 over 6 and then do long division. I'm really close. Okay? So Jordan, can you get that even more simplified? Mm-hmm. Okay, she did straight long division. So she put the 100 and the 12 here. Jordan, that's not going to be a problem at all. It works. I bet you're going to you got the same answer that I could get. I was thinking if you could practice simplifying a little bit more, you could even do it without that long division. Because how many times does 3 go into 25? 8. And what's the remainder? 1/3. So did you get 8 1/3%? So you got there too. So there's nothing, there's not one correct way. 8 1/3% is a good answer. If you did it the way Jordan did and you'd like to check your steps. 8 times 12 is 96. So she did that first, and her remainder is 4. So she made a fraction 8 4/12. And 4/12 reduces to 1/3, so it's the same. So what's faster for one person might not be faster for the next person, so it's nice to have more than one method. How are we doing on this? Thumbs up or thumbs down? So on the pink paper, there were some 12s, right? Okay, ask questions about, is it just the 12 that's bothering you? So the process of building up to 100, let's do number 4. Number 4 is kind of similar because it's not a benchmark fraction. A second, let me just straighten this up a little bit. So whenever the number in the denominator doesn't go into 100 evenly, multiply by 100. It's a nice strategy.
700.
And you'd get 500 over 700. Does that part make sense?
Yeah.
And then divide by whatever number you need to get to 100. So divide by 7, because you want the bottom to be 100, because you want per 100. So over here, I divided by 12 because I had 1200. So if I divide 1200 by 12, I get 100. Here I only have 700, so I'm going to divide by 7. The ugly part is I have to do it up here. So I'm just going to use a fraction bar to represent division. That's my first step. That's where, if you looked at the steps at the top of the page, sometimes you need to do long division too. So right there, once you have that, you've got to just do a little long division to get it cleaned up. So it's 500 divided by 7. 7 times 7 is 49. Subtract 49 and you get 1. Bring that 0 down. 7 goes into 10 how many times?
1.
Once. And now my remainder's smaller than 7, so I say 71 3/7. That's my answer. 71 3/7%. If it's not a benchmark fraction, don't go to the decimal unless you really want to. If you really want to, or if I ask you to, I'm only going to ask you to go to 1 decimal place.
Yeah.
So you actually have to go to 2 to do that, to see how to round. And I think we'll save that. Well, let's just do that. As an option, you could, instead of do 71 3/7, for those of you guys that are ready to do decimals, or you just like it, it's not always necessary, but you would put a decimal here. We still would have the 71. But now 7 goes into 34 times. And then you bring down one more 0, and 7 goes into 22 times. Since this 2 is less than 5, we round this to be 71.4. So it's exactly that, or about
I did it in the decimal.
71.4%. As long as you say it's about, because it's not exact when we round. Those are your choices. But it's quicker in this case just to stay with the 71 3/7%. So I would suggest that right now. Okay, now thumbs up, thumbs down. How are we doing? Better? Okay, so let's go through the steps here on this one, Tori. Can you reduce? Yeah. Yes, by what? By 7. Okay, so divide by 7 and you get 3/5. So Annette, is that a benchmark fraction? Denominator's 5. to one of the easy ones that we worked with on the number line? What do you think, Annette? Can you build it up to 100 quickly? So it would be so that's a benchmark. That's one way to tell. So times by, no, how many 5s are in 100? How about go to 10? Do that first. Good, 2. And that's 6. Now go to 100. Yeah. So you don't have to get there in one step. 60. So what percent is 21 over 30 out of 35? 60%. Right, 60%.
That was 50%.
If it were 50, it'd be exactly half of 35. It's a little more than half. Half of 35 is 17 and a half. Okay?